Who's wrong and who's wronger? In this corner, followed by millions, James the Exploding Unicorn Breakwell. And in that corner, ignored by millions, Steve Dash Rinko Levens.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Wrong and Wronger. And I very rarely address this few people because I have more than this in my household when I talk. But you've got, let's see, what was I about to say? I'm trying to reassemble my thoughts. You've got me, Dr. Steve. I'm the cool one. I'm the one that's properly lit. And you've got Breakwell over there, the unicorn, that a lot of you talked about him being too brightly lit last week. And James, I want to remind everyone, it's not because you're angelic.
Wait. You say a lot of people. Are you implying we had multiple comments on our podcast last week? Multiple comments?
If multiple means more than one, then the answer is yes.
Okay. Well, that downstairs computer, it's in front of a window, so it is what it is. You get the ambient light. It's part of the authentic experience. If we had any production values whatsoever, we wouldn't be true to our roots. So you gotta just roll with it. Whatever terrible conditions are out there, we play ball.
And terrible conditions are our strong suit, typically. That's what we bring to the table every week, rain or shine. Terrible conditions for you, the listener, but you're here. So what are you going to do? We abuse our listeners and our viewers, and yet they keep coming back. James, I've never been more drunk with power.
I know. It's really got to be Stockholm Syndrome at this point. I can't think of any other reason why they'd come back.
Well, they come back for the spirited repartee that you and I exchange every week, and we've got a topic this week that was born of an offhand comment that Breakwell made during a text to me. And James, do you remember what the offhand comment was and what we're going to talk about?
Well, we're going to talk about pet care and some stories that go with it. But the comment I made wasn't as disturbing as the question that led up to it. You asked me a very confusing and vague, what do you look like this week? Is this like a Jake from State Farm situation? You want to know that I'm wearing a polo and khakis or what? So I said I look fantastic as always, and then I did relay to you, but I did just have to wash off a bunch of pig blood from a hoof that I was trimming not so successfully. So, and apparently I thought that I would be, shamed for my pig blood, but this wasn't a Carrie situation either. Steve instead today was all about it because apparently he has some similar situations with dog blood. So this is going to be a gory podcast, but not really gory.
Yeah.
Hopefully funny and entertaining, more likely time wasting and meandering, but hey, let's see what we got.
Remember, terrible conditions.
Is there any other way to record a podcast?
Obviously not one that we're aware of.
Yeah.
So if there is, it is unbeknownst to us. But James, explain to me what happened. You, the self-proclaimed son of an office worker, the one that doesn't understand you can use different kinds of screws to put on a license plate. Why were you in the business of shearing the hooves off of your pig?
So I own two mini pigs, and their hooves just grow and grow, and you've got to trim them. And I finally got to the point the other week where when I was posting videos of my pigs, people were making snarky comments, and they were pig shaming me for my hoof length. And I was like, all right, I gotta deal with this. So, and it's such a job. So that the bigger pig weighs 100 pounds. And actually, it's such a burden that I actually looked up how much it would cost to have like a pig trimmer come here, and for the two pigs, it was
a pig trimmer.
Yeah, it was gonna be like $400. I was like, "There's no way. That's more than I paid for both pigs combined. What I got for free, and I think what I paid $100 for. So there's no way I'm paying $400 to trim their hooves." So, and I kept waiting for my wife Lola to be available. So our usual system is I go down and I scoop up this pig and I waddle over to a high chair, and I have to sit in a high chair. It's a high chair with no sides because it has to be a chair that's narrow enough that Gilly can't put down her feet and get purchased and jump off. Her feet have to be dangling in the air. So I scoop up this screaming pig, I sit in a high chair, and my wife maneuvers underneath the pig like she's changing oil and gradually clips it off. And we've got two different types of shears. We've got these big metal, like I don't know, they're like pinchers. They look like the things you use to snap off nail heads for nails that you want to pull out. And then the other one is, they're like garden shears, but they're actually goat shears for goat hooves. And she uses the goat ones because she has tiny little hands and she can't get her hands around the bigger one. And it takes forever and she just can't get that deep. And I thought, you know what, maybe I can do this myself. So I went to the internet and I watched some videos about pig flipping. And in these videos, said, you can totally do this.
God.
If you flip a pig over on its back, you like grab it under the hind legs and you like walk it backwards and you flip it under your crotch and then you sit on it or you pin it between your legs and then you can kind of do that. Well, I did that. The bigger pig made a mistake of coming in by herself. I closed the gate so she couldn't get back outside. My wife was out of the house. There were no witnesses except the children. I thought, you know what? I'm going to flip that damn pig and I'm going to trim those nails right now. This is going to happen. So I went and I grabbed that pig and I started to flip her, and boy, did that pig get mad. Like, the murder squeals that you sometimes hear through the video, they are nothing like it is in person. Like, my kids get on the verge of crying every time this happens. It traumatizes them so much. It really sounds like this pig is in pain. It's like, there's nothing, we haven't even started the process where there could possibly be pain. I'm just flipping you over. So, and the pig flipping, I'm not a fan of it because she's pretty long. But when you flip her, you got to send her right under your crotch. And it's like, I don't really want the pig down there. Like, if she wanted to do damage, that would be the chance. But I did it.
Sure.
I slipped her right under there, and then I tried to pin her in place with my legs to keep her on her back. And she's she was all bloated from the day. She'd been eating apples and all this stuff. She's pretty round. And she's kind of rolled to the side, and I tried to grab her, and she was half twisted around doing a crocodile death roll. It didn't work at all. So then I tried it again, obviously. Same reaction. Now she's all riled up. And I would have to, in order for this to work with her shape, I would have to get on top of her like, in MMA when one guy full mounts the other one down on their knees, pounded him in the face. Like, I would have to be on that position in this pig to pin it. So, okay. So I try that, and this isn't going to work. Pig's upset. Kids are upset. Wife's still not home. I'm getting these nails trimmed. So I tell the kids to go get this toddler mattress that we have upstairs. We tried to use it as a pig bed, but they wouldn't sit on it. They don't like it. It's too airy. It kind of feels weird. It doesn't feel like a regular cushion. So I have them bring down that, and I kind of herd the pig back into this narrow hallway we've got. And she was trapped between the gate to outside and the hallway, and she couldn't turn around. And one kid was over the top of the mattress, kind of distracting her a little bit, but it wasn't working. And the pig is whining like crazy, trying to bang her way out through the gate. And I just take these big old clippers, the ones that my wife's hands are too small for, and I just grab a back leg and I just start hacking away. And the pig can't get away, and it starts working. And usually before when Lola does it, we're getting little tiny slivers like you're clipping a kid's fingernails. I'm getting chunks, like half-inch chunks at a time. Like, this is fast, this is going great. Now, mind you, I'm leaving her with some kind of square hooves, but hey, hooves grow back. It's okay. We just got to get the length off. They were pretty gnarly. And so I hack my way through one hoof, 2 toes and 2 dew claws, and we're good. And I hack my way through the second foot, 2 toes and 2 dew claws, and we're really good. Then I go to the front one, which is a little trickier because it's up by her mouth and she doesn't bite, and she's usually afraid of me because I'm the only one in the house who can pick her up, but she sometimes swipes, and I have been flipping her upside down and chopping off parts of her body, so I know what she's going to do. So I grab the one foot, and she kind of takes a knee, but she doesn't really pull it back. And so I start clipping through, and every hoof I'm going a little bit further. I'm getting more confident, like I can take off more than this, because you want to get as much as possible, because this process is traumatizing everybody. Like, I don't want to do a half measure. And so I get the second toe on that, I'm like, oh, that was pretty good. I think I can get a little more. Well, dear reader or listener, I could not get a little more. I chopped off a little more, and blood started going everywhere. You would have thought I hit like a major artery on that pig. She's suddenly leaving bloody hoof prints all over the tile. My kid is freaking out. The pig is freaking out, and I've still got one hoof to go. You know what? I've got this pig cornered. We're doing this. So I take my blood-covered pruning shear, and I grab that other hoof, and real quick, I did not do a great job on the last hoof, but I got it. I think I got both dew claws and both toes. Then I shooed the pig outside. The pig was delighted to be away from me, and then I sent the kids to grab paper towels and those Lysol wipes that are in short supply in the quarantine, because I had to sanitize my floor from a whole lot of pig blood. Now, she's been outside pretty much all day. I'm pretty sure she's not happy with me. So hopefully that blood clotted up. Hopefully she's fine and her hooves are going to grow back nice and neat and all of that. But I don't know that for sure. I guess I could go outside and find her woozy from blood loss from that nick on the toe. So who knows? So that was my story. That's why I was covered in pig blood, and that was the exact moment when you texted me. So it was a fun time. But I know at least one listener will complain because now I've talked for like 55 minutes of our podcast. So I'm going to toss it back to you because apparently you have some bloody stories as well about grooming gone wrong.
Wow. Maybe I should have gone first. I'm fascinated by that. I'll tell my story in a second because it'll only take a second. But Breakwell, if for nothing else, he's never at a loss for words. So you can tell by looking at the pig that their hooves need cutting?
Yeah, it's like the angle. It's supposed to be more straight down, but eventually they kind of start curving out and getting real flat. And that's not supposed to be. Now, if you're really, really bad, and I'm not saying this has ever happened with my pig, but that flat part will eventually snap off on its own if you wait too long. But yeah, it's supposed to... But the point where it's supposed to stop is not as clear as I believed. It's really not.
So you're trying to... Oh, go ahead.
Well, because it's got a quick, like a dog. I mean, all mammals are all descended from the same thing. And the quick isn't supposed to expand, so you just got to avoid hitting the quick. And I guess you can shine a flashlight through the bottom to kind of see, but like I was using one hand to hold an angry pig and one hand to hold the clippers so that, the flashlight was not happening.
So you're sort of like trying to trim the fat from around a pork chop, sort of, or a piece of steak, right?
I mean, it's like trying to trim the nails on a dinosaur while it's attacking you. That's the closest analogy I can give.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. No, very clear. Well, speaking of quick, cutting to the quick is indeed an art form, and I guess you have to overshoot your mark in order to learn that this is something that shouldn't happen. And Mrs. Steve learned that, and it cost us a visit from the carpet cleaning company to come in and do our whole house because we had, and it's been a while since Rudy died, but we had an 85-pound poodle.
Wow.
And I don't know if there are poodle nail clippers that are out and about that charge $400 to come to the house, but it would have been well worth the investment given the aftermath. We actually have come to refer... This has come to be known as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in our house because nothing Al Capone ever did was less bloody or more bloody than this. But I was on the road because that's when my wife gets these bright ideas that she'll take care of things. And she decided to cut the dog's nails, which required a similar calf rope incident that you have with your pig, which is you've got to sort of get around the dog and then on the dog. It's almost like you have to pin the dog in like a WWE wrestling match before you can do anything because the dog and her are roughly the same size. And my son was probably 8 at the time, daughter's not that big, and the dog has angry animal like energy inside. So wife got one fingernail on the dog too close and like cut into the quick, and it was like you said, it's like a femoral artery just got sliced with like a straight razor or something, like John Lithgow in that Dexter episode. But the dog ended up throwing everyone off like a bucking bull and took off through the house. And dogs don't ever run in a straight line because they don't have a specific destination on their GPS when they get going. So she had to have given like the blood splatter that Dexter ironically had to come in and analyze. Like she did a couple laps in the upstairs bonus room, ran through the hallway, ran back around down the steps and then downstairs. Anyway, we had to get the whole house like carpet cleaned because we had beige, taupe, whitish carpet, just builder grade crap that you get in one of your earlier houses. But man, that stuff, it looked like we had probably killed like a party of 6 in our home. And the whole thing had to get cleaned. And the dog probably was mistrustful of my wife from that day forward or just forgot about it completely because wife ended up buying a rotary tool with like an emery board on the end of it to like file Rudy's nails down. No more clipping. But now we have a little dog, and she has me like hold the dog in a death grip while she just bang, 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 clips his nails. And he hates it, but he really doesn't have the bulk behind him to do anything about it. He just has to acquiesce. But that's my story. Not nearly as entertaining as yours, but certainly as expensive.
Pigs they just raise the stakes on every pet encounter. That's what they do. We had lots of bloody footprints. So luckily she only wanted to go outside, so she went back towards the mudroom. So we just have a crappy rug back there and some blankets. And those are, last time I checked, all covered in bloody footprints. But when we're done with those, we will just throw those out. There will be no carpet cleaning service. We don't do our dog's nails though. We take him to the groomer like twice a year. He's a mud of a bunch of different stuff like Lhasa Apso and Yorkie and all this stuff. But the gist of it is he doesn't shed. I mean, every once in a while he'll drop like a cotton ball that'll go like a tumbleweed through the house, but he doesn't really shed in the traditional. So if you don't shave him, hair just gets longer and longer until you can't see the dog. He just looks like a pillow or something.
Yeah.
So we have to take him to the groomer a couple times a year, and when we go, I want to get my money's worth, obviously. So I tell him just buzz him down, all the way down, sheared to the skin. That's all I ask for. And they do it. They do the nails at the same time. So actually, I have not had to do a dog nail. So you've got a different experience than I do there, and I respect you for that. Now, did you get a smaller dog specifically because trimming that bigger dog's nails was such trouble?
No. It's an interesting question because it sort of speaks to how decisions get made in the house. So the first dog, I wanted a big dog. Mm-hmm. Like we had just come off of a couple of German Shepherds that were drop dogs. And I like big dogs. I like messing with the dog. I like throwing the dog around. I like the dog. The dog would do this thing. She still had, or he, Rudy was a boy. He still had a little bit of Puma in him, like Timberwolf. Because my son would be on rollerblades in the house and sort of go in the circle around the kitchen, into the living room, into the kitchen. And Rudy would jump on his back and grab him by the back of the neck and take him down on his rollerblades. I know, it was hilarious to watch. I don't know how he survived. But anyway, so I wanted the big dog because I wanted the kids to have big dog experience where you get sort of rough and tumble with a dog, and wife wanted a little dog. So when Rudy died, we got a little dog. And then that dog died, and we got another little dog. And I suspect every dog we get from here on out will be a little dog. So I'm not sure how this taking turns things works, but it seems that I am no longer a part of that decision-making process.
I mean, that's true of every era in your marriage, so that's not a surprise to any of us. Little dogs, though, they're nice. They have little poop. They don't, you don't have to. Like, I won't say you don't have to walk them because people will jump all over me, but they get a lot of exercise just going through a house. Like, your house is like 25 acres, so they, by the time he runs up your 6 flights of stairs, I mean, that dog's pretty well worn out. Mine has the same thing. He does get walked some by the kids now that we can't go as many places, but yeah, we've got 240 feet of fence line. He just runs up and down that in the yard and gets all the exercise he wants most days. It's logistically easier. I mean, some of those big dogs, when they poop, it's like a horse, it just... Everything's just a little harder with the big dog, and especially shedding now. It looks like your little dog does not shed. Am I correct in that?
That is correct, but wife just trimmed his face because he gets this hair bear look where he can't see because his hair is all in his eyes. She trimmed off a pile of hair that was the size of the dog, and it just came from his face. I don't know where it all comes from.
Yeah, we only tried to trim our dog's hair once, and it was when they were puppies and really out of control. And at the end of it, we were completely covered in hair, and the dog looked terrible. It was like trying to shave like a furry bass. Like the whole time, he's just like wiggling like he's on the end of like he's a fish out of water. It was not a good experience. And after that, I was like, I will pretty much pay any price to not repeat this experience. And we found a groomer. I mean, we're in the middle of Indiana, so everything's cheaper. It's like $35 a time. So $35 twice a year, and I'm not covered in hair, and I don't hate my life. So that is money well spent. Now, since quarantine started, I'm not going in the same direction that I usually am, so I actually had to find a new groomer for the first time. And this new groomer requires all sorts of fancy shots and all sorts of that, so this dog better be worth it. He's costing me.
And you said you got yours shaved down to the skin, like he's going to enter the Air Force kind of look. We got our big dog shaved down like that once, and it looked like a monkey and a bat skeleton had a love child. Like the dog did not look right when it was just skin and bones. So I don't know. Poodles need a little bit of floof to look normal.
Yeah, and are there any big dogs other than poodles that don't shed? Because the shedding is really a deal breaker for me. People who are like they're dog people, it's like you're great, but if I go in your house and every single thing is covered in dog hair, it's like that's so much work. You have to vacuum like every 3 hours. I can't go through that. I've got kids; they're messy enough, and they shed. Children shed too. Oh man, it's we have those robot vacuums that roll through, and my kids, they all have hair that's like a foot and a half long.
Yeah.
It just wraps around that roller in there. You got to take like a blowtorch to cut through it. But dogs, I mean, I don't know how they have so much fur. It's like they regrow it all in like 2 days, and then they're ready to shed again.
Yeah, well, that's why there's a whole cottage industry of breeding one particular type of dog with a poodle. With a poodle. Labradoodles and Schnuckerdoodles and whatever. There's a whole bunch of them now because they are now hypoallergenic, non-shedding dogs that have Labrador or Golden Retriever qualities.
Yeah, that sounds pretty well amazing. And like the idea of a big dog sounds good to me. It's like, oh boy, I could go out and play with it and, rough and tumble, all that stuff. It's like, you know what, though? I don't play with anything in my house. I don't play with my kids. I don't play with my pigs. At some point, it's like, I got stuff to do. Go entertain yourself. So I think if I got a big, smart dog, it would just be a big, smart problem. That's what I run into with my animals. And pigs really don't play. I mean, some people try to play with pigs, but I mean, a pig is just a food-seeking missile. It just kind of hangs out. It'll use you for warmth, but ultimately, it's waiting for you to slip up so you drop food. And I respect that. I respect the honesty of pigs. They really, you always know where you stand with them. Kids are a little more conniving, but yeah, it's one of the reasons in my books I always say you got to have multiple kids so they can play with each other. Otherwise, they're coming to you for attention. Now, and that's why we used to have 2 dogs so they could play with each other. Now we've got 2 pigs. One of our dogs died. I think we're going to phase out a dog, so we're just going to keep 1 dog. But he's technically got the pigs to play with if he wanted to, even though dogs and pigs really do not play. But you've always been a 1-dog guy. What's the story with that?
I don't know that wife. Well, I don't know. We've been talking about getting a second dog because our current dog is so active. Mm-hmm. Like he has 2 modes. It either looks like a sniper took him out in mid-stride or he's like attacking everything. And he doesn't chew stuff up. He throws it around and he plays by himself pretty well, but he also is constantly seeking attention. He'll sort of jump up and nip at my fingers when I'm just standing still. Like he wants people to play with him. So we've been talking about getting a sibling for him. I can't imagine what kind of whirlwind of energy that's going to bring to the house. But I don't know. I don't think my wife wanted more than 1 dog to take care of in the past.
Let me recommend getting a giant dog to go with it. They can be a mismatched pair. Get the 85-pound dog and the 5-pound dog, and they'll be you should walk them at the same time always. They would be the talk of the neighborhood. You wouldn't have to be
and then pretend they're the same dog because they both be poodles, and then look judgingly at the person that asks if they're both what kind of dogs they are.
It's just he expands when wet. It happens, It's a bad hair day.
Poodles are supposed to be smart, but our big one was a Friday build. Like, God, that dog, he would bang his head into the wall all the time and drag his head down the wall in the hallway. There was something not right with that one. My daughter thought he was sneaky smart. She and he had a very different relationship than the rest of the world did with him. But yeah, he was as dumb as the day is long. That was a box of rocks with curly hair, for sure.
Yeah, there are supposed to be these super brilliant dogs out there. I've really never had any brilliant pets. I guess my pigs are very smart, but they use it for evil. So I've got 1 pig that gets into everything and 1 pig that gets into nothing. And I think they're probably equally intelligent. It's just one has that drive to go to the dark side all the time. And so I don't know if it has a lot to do with intelligence or more just disposition. Some animals are smart, but they're smart enough to chill. I'd like to think if I were a super genius for a human, I wouldn't be out there, using it to wreck everybody's lives. Maybe I just hang out. I'm too smart for all this. I don't need to mess with it. And so I'd like to believe that's what's going on with our smaller pig. But you think about it, though, for animals, intelligence, it always comes up in a bad context. They're so smart, you demonstrate that by the things they broke into or the things they stole. I mean, very seldom is it they're so smart they saved 6 kids from a well. I think saving kids from a well, it's a TV trope, but in real life, how many times have you been saved from a well by a dog? 0. Dogs are all hype.
It's funny. I literally within the last 6 months learned what the word trope means. I had no idea until recently.
Well, that's good. What was the context in which you had to learn it?
One of the podcasts that I listened to, one of the members of their team is a movie guy, and he would constantly use it just the way you did. Well, I guess the way that it's used, which is it's a trope.
Correctly,
it's a trope. And I'm I don't even know what that means. So I had to look it up, and I'm like, oh! And so I've used it like willy-nilly ever since then. Sometimes wrong, just because I can. I have a hammer, I'm going to use it.
You rip on my English degree constantly, but here I am successfully using a word that I haven't had to look up since I was like, I don't know, like last year. Who knows? I don't know when I learned the word. I used it correctly today. That's what matters. But actually, we're almost at time here. We've thoroughly discussed our dog traumas. I think we're good. Do you want to close us out?
Yeah, and I would even expand that to say pet traumas, unless you're now considering your pig's dogs.
I don't know what they are anymore.
Oh, your wife's going to heaven. Anyway, you have watched another episode of Wrong and Wronger, which means you're probably going to get right into heaven too, because you've suffered plenty down here on earth. And until next week, when we come back and regale you with tales of the inane, I am Steve, Dr. Steve Olivas, for James the Exploding Unicorn Breakwell, saying thanks for watching, thanks for listening, don't become a trope, and get that trope out of my driveway. I got to get to work. And always remember, two wrongs can make a right.